is Anthony. I'm a student in the University of South Florida. I'm an electrical engineering major, and I am currently a junior. And can I just say thank you all for giving me this opportunity and to speak here and represent the transfer students.
Hi, my name's Audrey Blanco. I also go to the University of South Florida. I transferred from Hillsborough Community College, and I was grateful enough to have some people think of me to ask me to come and be here. I'm a mathematics major. I'm a senior, and it just takes me a little while, but I'm 23.
Hi, my name's Megan O'Reilly. I'm really happy to be here. I am the president of the Tau Sigma National Honor Society for transfer students here at University of Central Florida, and I am a senior majoring in health sciences.
I'm so short, sorry. My name is Anna. Good morning, everyone. I'm a senior here at UCF. This is about my third semester. My major is International and Global Studies with a minor in Diversity and Social Inequality. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for working so hard to ensure that we succeed at any university that we decide to go to.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephanie. I'm a transfer student from Broward and now attend FIU. I'm completing my master's program in higher education administration this December, so I'm very excited. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and also to hear from us our perspective as students. So thank you.
Look at all the networking you've been doing.
Can we get started? Sure. I think I'm closest to the podium. So I'm gonna just open up the questions, and if one of you want to take it on this side, whoever wants to jump in. I think I'd like to start with. That's a little bit too much deficit. What was the best part of your transfer experience? So thinking back to that time when you were finishing up at the state college, ready to transfer to your institutions, what was the best part of your experience and what was the biggest hiccup? And anyone can take that. Go ahead. Do you want to come up?
For me, the best part of my experience actually came from the faculty members. They were extremely supportive. They knew me in a way that sometimes, unless you go very frequently to advising and counseling and are blessed enough to see the same person continually, that connection doesn't always hit. And I know that, to me, what I've been getting about what people have been saying is that one of the biggest barriers is actually psychological. It doesn't matter if you have all the accessibility in the world. If you're not accessible within yourself, that's very hard to overcome. So the faculty supported me immensely in that. I think the biggest hiccup was when I went over to the University of South Florida and I didn't know the faculty. Building that connection with them and having that sense of understanding, that was to me the biggest challenge of everything.
Hello? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I transferred from Valencia College, and I would say the easiest part of my transition was the fact that we had personnel from UCF at Valencia. So it was a very easy transition in terms that all the paperwork that I had to do and everything that was the administrative process, it was very easy because I just had to go to the office within Valencia, East Campus. So I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to send any paperwork myself because they were there, and it was very accessible in terms that any question that I had, I could just ask that question at Valencia. I didn't have to travel. Now, I would say the most difficult part of my transition would be the fact that nobody told me about transfer shock. And so when I had my first orientation and they mentioned that, I was like, what is that? Like, I have never heard that word. And I did suffer from transfer shock during my first semester. It was so different. And the fact that I didn't even know what that was, it was very difficult to know what that was and to know how to overcome that. So I wish they had told me that at Valencia.
So my story is a little bit different if we're talking about, the best part of your experience. So my favorite part of transferring was being proved wrong, because my story is I'm here because I lost a soccer scholarship. I'm originally here from Florida, and my freshman year I went up to West Virginia to play collegiate soccer. Ended up having to come back home, and I did not want to. I just thought that going to UCF, it was like kind of almost like stepping down for me. I was like really not excited. And then when I got here, and it was just all these wonderful resources, and all these people were really welcome. So I ended up being so happy that I came to UCF, and so yeah.
So the best part for me was definitely how easy it was to meet with an advisor. I went into USF in the fall, but I met with an advisor in the spring. I didn't even make an appointment. I kind of just walked up and said hey, what's up? So it was nice that they made the effort to meet with me, and they were really honest with me in what classes I should take. They told me not to go full time because of transfer shock and stuff. They didn't say specifically that, so I even suffered from that as well, but it made it not as hard. My GPA didn't tank as hard. But yeah, and one of the hiccups I have to say is, like she said, transfer shock, and as well as taking care of some issues with applying and stuff like that. Like my out-of-state, trying to get in-state, that was quite difficult for me for whatever reason. Even though I was at HCC, I was born here, been here for 10 years, it's still an issue. And it took me 2 to 3 weeks, but besides that, it was a pretty good experience, I'd say.
So I would say the best experience is when I first went to a smaller tour on campus, and that whole transition from Broward to FIU, it was very smooth. I don't remember having any difficulties, and every time that I would call, someone was always there to help, so that was really reassuring and comforting. And getting to explore the school on that tour, it made me feel excited to go to FIU and yes, I want to go there. The biggest hiccup I feel looking back that I experienced was once I finally got to FIU, I was your average commuter student also transferring. I would just go to campus and leave and then go back home, go to class and leave. And I think looking back, that was the biggest hiccup was, okay, I love this school and I love being here, but now I don't feel not I belong, but where do I fit in on campus? I'm just here for class and then I'm just going to go home after that. So until I found that rhythm and where I belonged on campus, it was hard. Okay, once I'm here now, what do I do? So yes.
So that's a good follow-up to this question. What programs, services, or information do you wish your current institution or the one that you transferred to would have assisted you with in your first semester or even at any time during your time after transferring?
As an engineering student, I wish they told me more about the requirements and the difficulty of engineering itself. Went into it, 300 people in physics. Sure, it was a nightmare, but I lived through it, so. But besides that, I'm not sure.
Okay, so as a transfer student, I transfer in the spring semester. So it wasn't in the typical fall semester where everything is happening. And so I felt that there wasn't as many programs and there wasn't as much accessibility in terms of the available organizations or programs or scholarships. So I wish they had offered more during other semesters or as much as in the fall semester. And so I didn't see as much tabling outside in Milliken Hall or anywhere else. I didn't see as much advertisement about any specific program, so that's something that I wish they had offered more, more programming in the spring and summer semester rather than just in the fall.
When I got here, I really wish that UCF would have told me about excess hours. because as a transfer student, you come in with like a lot of credits and some of them aren't counting. Personally, with my experience from coming out of state, I just have all these random classes that I don't even know what they're applying towards, but they're still on my transcript. And being a health science major, and I also have a minor in cognitive science, I'm taking like a lot of classes. And in addition to all these random transfer credits that I have, I'm starting to approach that problem as a senior. I'm like, am I gonna have to cut my education? Am I gonna have to cut my education short so I don't run into that? And that's something that I really would like to know when I got here so I can avoid what's happening now.
Something that I really would have liked to have been, and what I think would be very beneficial to have, and I know that some of it has already been talked about before, but I would love that if on the orientation, when you get to go and either choose a campus tour or choose to go hear about academic advising, I wish they had a session that would allow us to actually go and talk with faculty members of the department that we're getting into. Because no one can tell you better than what they can of what to expect in the classrooms and what's the mentality, what's the difference from where you came from, or maybe even what are the similarities to help you feel comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing for me that I would have loved to have seen, because I think it would have been very eye-opening and would, again, really psychologically prepare students for what they're getting themselves into. I mean, when you enter your major, it's very different than at a two-year institution. There's this tribe of people that you enter by the time you're in these 3,000 and 4,000 level classes, and you become very aware of that tribe, and it helps you to know where you fit in and who you can connect with and how you can connect with them. And I think that would be very enlightening.
What I wish would have been told or talked about is kind of like, once I got to FIU, what's your plan? So when I got to FIU, I declared a major in psychology and then ended up changing to education with the hopes of becoming an occupational therapist, and now I'm in higher education. So that plan did not go as I saw, but I wish before I had left Broward, there was kind of a conversation, what are your plans when you get to FIU? What are you going to do when you get to FIU? Or even when I started at Broward, where are you considering transferring after? Are you thinking of staying? Are you thinking of transferring? What does that look like? What are your plans for when you get to FIU? So I think it would have saved a lot of my confusion as kind of like where I saw myself in the world, and kind of just helped me plan a little bit better. So I wouldn't have I could have just started straight in education. And then, yeah.
Thank you very much. What resources did you find most helpful once you arrived at your transfer institution?
The resources I found most helpful when I got to FIU were actually my fellow transfer students. We didn't have all the answers, and of course, at that point, I would encourage students to not be scared to go ask questions, but it was really like leaning on each other to figure out, okay, what should we do now? Actually, right now, as a graduate assistant for transfer and transition services, I lead a ambassador program that helps connect transfer students. So looking back, that would have been amazing to have already had that connection when I came into the university rather than through my major, and then it connects me to everybody and outside of my major as well. So that was my friends.
The best resource for me was when I joined the Office of Orientation at USF. Since part of being an OL is you have to know the ins and outs so you can help students when they come into first year sessions or transfer sessions. So that definitely helped me out in finding specifically what would be the best benefit for students as well as myself. And
So the best resource that I've recently came upon is the Office of Undergraduate Research, and I'm not saying that because I work there or because my boss is in the crowd right now. But so personally for me, I would very much like to go get my PhD, and it's not even about that. People will think research and they're like, oh, that's so boring. You're just sitting in a lab, you know. But UCF is a really good research community in the way that in order to get involved, you have to go out and find a faculty mentor. And as you were saying, it's the faculty that are going to tell you, you know, what you really need to know. And having somebody mentor you and being excited about learning and asking these questions and just having unlimited resources for the purpose of research here at UCF is it's really empowering with your education, you know. It's tailoring it to where I want it to go. I love having a mentor, you know. He's really helping me do or know exactly what I want to do with my life. So that's something unique to UCF that I'm really happy about.
I would say the UCF app. So we have an amazing app, and it's the reality that we are on our phones the whole day, either sending emails, checking social media, doing something. So I think it's a great way that we can connect with the university, especially because we commute. And so it's not a possibility to be here all day long, the whole week. And so most of the programs are happening. They might be tabling on Monday, but then we might not be coming here on Monday. So the app, it's an amazing opportunity that we have where we can check our email, we can see the events going on, and then every Thursday on Instagram, they post all the important data that they have for the week. So I think that's one of the most useful resources I found.
To echo some of my peers, I agree with her. The fellow peers that are in the college, whether they're first time, whether they are a senior, whatever level they're at, even students that are outside of your major. I kind of believe in, I mean, a lot of times when we label resources, I think we think of programs or something extremely specific, but I think the greatest resource is just the people that are around us that know something that maybe we don't. And it's not the expectation that someone has your answer. It's allowing yourself to hear what they have to say so that you yourself can have a wider scope of what's happening, regardless of whether or not it's going to work for you. But to also I had to be careful because unfortunately something that I realized is not everyone in my experience was actually supportive of transfer students. Some students did not think very highly of me for transferring from a Hillsborough community college or from other people who transferred, which to me is a bit unfortunate that there's not this support in some ways like that. So it's knowing which resources go to you. I do go to my peers, and the ones who, again, were kind of in that tribe of people that really work with you and understand where you're coming from, as well as the faculty members, because it was a similar experience. But to me, it's definitely students, and it's definitely the faculty who really take the time to understand your process.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Someone with a high octave who wants to ask a question, or I can repeat it if I hear it? Yes.
For you, you had made mention you wish that at the community college that you would have had information about transfer. Would you have wanted that thrown at you or presented to you at the initial orientation, or maybe a semester or two in a formal transfer type program?
At Broward or once I got to FIU?
Broward.
I think
Steph, can you go to the? Oh. Yeah, please.
timing it right to where it would been in the timeline where I would have been getting ready to transfer out of Broward and continuing my education. I think while at Broward, it would have been good to explore the options. I wouldn't say right before I transferred, but maybe a semester or two before, just to have that plan of, or at least not something set in stone, but an idea of what I was going to do, or once I got there, what would that look like? That's what I would look back and say. Yeah, thank you.
We have another question.
What factors influence your decision to start at a community college, and do you think those needs are being addressed now that you're at the Florida institution?
For me, it was more the cost. It was much cheaper. It was like half the price.
what I paid at Valencia than what I pay here. And then scholarships. At Valencia, it was very, very easy to get scholarships. Of course, if you have a good GPA and you're involved and you have all these traits. But at UCF, it's a little bit, I feel, more difficult, especially for transfer students. And I think someone mentioned that there's not as many scholarships for transfer students. And so it's a little bit easier economically to start at a community college and then to transfer to a university, in my case.
I think you guys are probably getting the gist. I like faculty members. So, faculty driven. I didn't want to be sitting in a 300 student classroom. It was not for me and my personality type, and I was dual enrolled on top of that. So the idea was for me more of a transitional experience, not to say that community college is not just as much of a college experience as a university, because I personally don't believe in that, and that has not been my experience, but more so the level of intimacy that can be achieved. And in my experience, I have been able to connect better with a larger amount of people in the community college setting than at USF. Not to say that I don't have wonderful connections over there, but just sheer quantity-wise, that was at the Hillsborough Community College.
I'm the same as her. It was mainly cost, but with the addition of I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I figured it'd be better to go to a community college where it was cheaper, and I could decide there if I wanted to proceed with something that I might have liked at the time or something that I just caught my interest or whatever. And that was my main factor as to why I chose community college first.
I have a quick follow-up, because you talked about engineering. Did you think when you were in the state college already that that's what you wanted to do, or did you evolve, like, I really kind of like this?
I just liked math. I was good at it. But I ended up liking engineering, yeah. That was because I took math classes at a state college. Noticed that I have a proficiency with math. I was like, okay, guess this might be for me, and here I am.
I think I saw some questions all the way in the back.
Yes, hi, thank you. So, FDN here from Valencia, UCF, right? What's your name? Yes. I was wondering, in your transfer shock experience, what particularly you struggled with in terms of like what do you call transfer shock, and what was your experience of that? And what could you have been told at Valencia that would have helped and not scared you away?
Okay, so academically, my GPA did drop a bit because I was used to getting for one whole year straight A's. And then when I transferred to UCF, I got, I think, like my first B, and I was like, no, what happened? And so nobody told me specifically how my classes were going to be like. And I think that ties with getting to know your professors and how that interaction is. Because at Valencia, you don't necessarily have to go to office hours. And I didn't know that was a thing here at UCF, where you actually have office hours and you get to meet with your professors and you get more a one-on-one interaction. So I wish they had told me that and the importance of it, because going to office hours can make a huge, huge difference in a student's academics. So I wish they have told me that. Apart from that, I would say more about resources on campus, because I wanted to do a lot of things here at UCF, but I did not know where to start. And so telling me, where can I start? Like, I didn't know much about our Office of Transfer and Transition Services. So getting to know that we have that office on campus, that whatever questions you may have, you can go to them, and that they're your support as a transfer student. I wish they have told me that when I transferred.
So we have time for 2 more questions. So our university, the transfer orientation that we provide is about half a day. And a lot of the information that you have about the different departments and resources that can use is sort of, spread out by some of the issues that we face with the students that are, attending these orientations, that it's so much information being thrown at you. So you pick and choose which ones are important to you at the moment, and a lot of times you're focusing on financial aid,
Well, my initial response to that is we're not the first year in college students. So when you're transferring, we've already been through an orientation, you know, like even though this is a new institution, I feel like a lot of that information that is being thrown is kind of repetitive, like the things that I learned my freshman year. So I feel like the orientation for transfer students should be really kind of customized to particular resources that you might not know about. So yes, general information is advising, financial aid, protocol, et cetera, but what resources are there for transfer students? Maybe talk about the transfer shock, you know, and just make it a little different than the normal orientation that we'd normally get our freshman year is my suggestion, so yeah.
I worked as an orientation leader specifically for transfer students over the summer, and I'd say what I noticed was peer-to-peer is the best way. As a group, they'll get some of the information, but once you speak one-on-one with them, they get that information and also retain that information. Yeah, I say peer-to-peer for sure. I had a couple of students also reach out to me and thanking me for giving them that information, but I wasn't able to do it for every student because it was just not enough time. And like you said, it's a half-day program, so you don't have a lot of time with the students.
So here at UCF, I work as a UNED ambassador, and so I work during orientation for transfer students. And during lunchtime, I'm basically like a peer mentor, so I do believe peer mentoring, it's very, very useful. And during lunchtime, when I approach the students and I ask them, hey, do you remember when we talked about this morning at 9 a.m.? They're like, no. And I ask them, well, do you remember about this other resource? No. They don't remember because it's a lot of information and it can be very, very overwhelming. So I think having a follow-up, so following up with those students, sending an email, sending reminders, I think that's really important because while they might not remember that day, if they receive an email, that's a refresher that they can get. So I think emails would be a good option to keep providing them with information.
We had one last question in the back. Yeah. Did any of you have an aha interaction or moment you remembered when you realized that your place at community college was really part of your bachelor's or next step?
My story is a little bit different because I did not go to community college. I brought up earlier how I was out of state actually playing soccer. And my aha moment was just when I realized it wasn't good for me. Like I wasn't doing well, I was unhappy, you know, I lost that scholarship. And my grades were just really not good. You know, I couldn't handle it. All the soccer, all the mental stress, and majoring in biology. Like my grades were just like bad. Like to this day, my transcript haunts me. So coming to UCF, I think I had like reverse transfer shock. And I actually ended up doing a lot better. So my aha moment at UCF ended up being at the Tau Sigma induction ceremony. So in order to join, you have to get a 3.5 your first transfer semester, which I never thought that I could do like in my entire life. And then I came to UCF and I was really excelling. And I went to the induction, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Applied to be the historian. I was like, this is kind of cool. The next year, the president. I was like, oh, okay, you know. So that was kind of my best transformation, is going from like a really like down, like, wow, I'm not good at anything place out of state, to coming here and just thriving. So yeah.
Well, I got to have several, but I'll tell you the most that sticks out in my mind was I was in a counselor's office at HCC because I was having an academic dilemma about what I wanted to take. And I think it was one of the most insightful things that anyone told me. And I was telling her what my dilemma was, which was my coursework and what I wanted to take. And at the time I wanted to take Calc 2, and she was like, why? And I said, because it's fun. And then we had a very long conversation about, are you sure you have the right major? And it was just how critical that what I was doing at HCC was going to pave the way for everything I did at USF. The need to do well in those courses in order to be a math major. And the fact that not taking that course essentially meant I was not going to be that major. And what that meant as a domino effect, very, very early, even just at a 2000 level class, it sets the tone. And that is what you pave at a community college. And it means a lot. And unfortunately, I didn't listen to her, and I had to come back and change my major 2 years later. But I look back, and that's probably why I remember it, because it was like, oh my gosh, she saw something in me that I couldn't recognize. And I do think that was one of the most powerful experiences of counseling that I got to have. So I mean, I know I've talked a lot about students and faculty, but that was someone who's trained and very good at their job and really took the time to know me in the ways that I think we keep talking about with the psychological and emotional barriers.
So my aha moment was when I decided to look into engineering for the first time, and I looked at the prerequisites at HCC. Then I started to look at universities that might to have a good engineering program, and that's when I went to USF, checked their requirements, and noticed that they accept HCC students straight out of the gate. As soon as you get your AA, you're basically accepted into USF, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. That makes my life a lot easier. Why not? And that was my my aha moment, and that's where I decided to do engineering, because it basically laid out the path for me. I do wish, though, that I was informed of that. I didn't know for a full year that I was at HCC, and I kind of had to find that information on my own. But besides that, yeah, that was my big aha moment.
Looking back, I think my biggest aha moment was when I accepted that in myself that it was okay to start at Broward and then transfer to FIU. I think a lot of the conversations I had when I was graduating high school and deciding what to do, it was like that look, oh, like you're starting at Broward and then going to FIU, like, or you're not just starting at the university. And I think my aha moment was when I told myself it was okay, that my journey was different than my neighbor's journey. And I think it helped me. Oh, thank you. That I think helped me succeed more than anything is that setup at Broward let me discover myself as a college student and be like, yes, you can do this and you're going to do okay. And then realizing that just because I went to Broward first and then went to FIU, my journey isn't less than important than someone who went straight into the university. My journey is just different, and I had a different start. And I've had conversations with students that have gone straight into the university, and they were like, oh, maybe I should have started at my college. Like, it's cheaper, which is always awesome. And then, and then you kind of discover yourself as what that looks like as a college student. So my transition to FIU with classes, looking back, wasn't as difficult for me because I kind of had that intro at Broward, and it made me comfortable with being in college and being a college student, and then being okay with, okay, I started here, but now look how far I've gotten, and I'm just as worthy and I can compete with someone who started at the university. So yes, thank you.
How wonderful are our transfer students? So I just want to officially thank each and every one of them for taking time out of their schedule. Some of them got up really, really early this morning to come here and be with all of you today. And on behalf of all of us here who are part of the conference, we truly, truly thank you for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your stories.